Coming up, satisfying before and after, flying pistons,
Jeez Louise.
and we have a parts party. Welcome back to the third installment of Project Rottweil. In the previous episode, we thoroughly serviced the engine of this neglected E39 Touring, and now the wrenching party continues with original and OE parts for the suspension and brakes, which we are going to overhaul completely. Everything we're about to do now and that I've done so far is based on my long-term experience with these cars as well as research. I am a big believer in preventive maintenance, as at a certain point in the car's life, due to age and kilometers, many components are on the verge of failing, hence why I go all in at the beginning of the project and have a trouble-free car in the years to come. Let's dig in. Now I can plug the line. While we're here, we can disconnect the wheel speed sensor as well. Wow. Did they take this car off-roading or what? Wheel bearing is not that bad, but since we're overhauling the entire suspension, this is inexpensive. We're doing everything, absolutely everything. Ball joint popping time. Okay, different approach. Air hammer. There we go. This is much easier than to torture yourself with this thing. I really hate the fact that I'm doing this on the 4-post sleeve. Now I can't get the air hammer here to knock out this one. There it is. Now I need to loosen and lower the steering knuckle in order to get the control arm out, but I just quickly wanted to show you how the strut is installed in the steering knuckle. This R here, as in right, needs to be lined up with this gap in the steering knuckle, and obviously on the left side, L as in left needs to be lined up with the gap. I believe this is aluminium. And you know what that means. It sure is, and that makes me very happy. Let's first deal with the steering knuckle and the wheel bearing. Smack that, give me some more. Wheel bearing removed. It's time for the magic act. This is my Vixen Surface Treatments Aquablast 1215 vapor blasting cabinet. And once that part comes out, it's gonna look better than brand new. I promise you that. Oh yes. I love this machine. Now we need to protect this finish, and for that we're going to use ACF 50. I did a small test and vapor blasted these two covers. This is the one that's treated with ACF 50. This is the untreated one. I left them outside for about a month, and as you can see, this one started to oxidate, while this one still looks perfect. So this is going to preserve this beautiful finish for hopefully at least a few years. So this is like a transparent film. Brand new parts, we have OE FAG wheel bearing and brand new original brake shield, which I also coated and protected with ACF 50. Now we're going to attack the strut, and here it's very important that we install the spring correctly, otherwise we can end up with a funky ride height. On some models, the end of the spring here sits all the way in the end of the spring pad, but on E39 it doesn't. This is the correct installation of the spring. These are the instructions that come with the shock from Zax. Incorrect, correct. So we're going to clean this up. Take a marker, make a mark in the rubber pad, then transfer it over to the new strut, put a mark on the body, and that way we know where to place the spring. Spring compressor from Hazit. Unlike my old one, this one is meant to be used with an impact. Slightly modified 22mm O2 socket thingy tool. Now we can disarm the bomb. This strut was replaced and it's in perfect condition, nothing wrong with it. I can tell that it was replaced by looking at the sticker. You can see that it says Zax. The original ones, they say Boge, I believe, which is the old company name, and they have BMW logo on it, plus they don't last 220,000 kilometers. With Zax shocks, you can get maybe around 100,000 kilometers, and then they're gonna start leaking or become really weak. But this one is good. Someone replaced it not long ago, so I'm gonna put this on the shelf, and we are upgrading to the M Sport shocks. I had these on my original E39 with the M Sport springs from the factory, and I loved the suspension on that car. It was one of the best riding cars I ever had, and I want the same thing for this one because the blend between comfort and sportiness, just perfect. This is aluminum, so if you'll excuse me for a second, I need to do something. A few blasting seconds, and this is what we have. I don't know if you can tell by now, but this is going to be one of the nicest mechanically well-sorted E39 Tourings out there. On the left is the E90 X-Drive strut mount, and on the right is the standard E39 one. And as you can see, it's higher than the one on the left, which is why we're going to use the E91. It's going to lower the front end just enough, and we don't need to use the lowering springs. Old spring pad. And that's where the spring needs to go. This is the M Sport spring, slightly shorter than the standard one. You can see a clear difference. Also, M Sport shocks use different bump stops. By the way, this is the part number for the M Sport strut. Brand new spring pad. Supposed to put this in the vise, but although I have one, it's not exactly suitable for this. This, then the washer, and the strut mount. Brand new nut. There we are. Here's how the spring sits at the top. And at the bottom, same as before. And I did compare this with my E39 M5 pictures that I took 6 years ago when I did this job. And the position of the spring is exactly the same. So these I'm gonna save because they're not in that bad of a condition. You never know when you're gonna need them, you know? Maybe 10 years from now, these parts are gonna be omitted completely. Brand new OE Lemfora control arms and sway bar links and OE Bosch wheel speed sensors. Before we proceed with the reassembly, mandatory cleaning is needed, and also we need to remove this thing here because it needs to be replaced. Gotta remove all of the rusty screws as well because we're gonna replace them. Got some all-purpose cleaner here. Brand new screws. I have this plastic here from Liquid Moly that I've been testing. Wie neu, like new. It's not sticky or slingy. The plastic absorbs this, and it also smells nice. So I use this to treat the engine bay, and it turned out pretty good. let that soak up, and then I can apply another layer. Strut going in with brand new nuts for the top mount, and there's a pin here that we need to align. Steering nucle and control arm. Pay attention, this one says R as in left, no, as in right. This goes in first. Don't forget a washer here, and then a nut. Brand new nut. All right, I'm gonna go and get Hugh Jackman. Lately, he's been giving me a lot of excuses, like I need to film or whatever. Do I not pay you enough? Make sure to position the strut correctly. Yep, Bob's your uncle. Goes like this. Why do I mark the nuts as torqued? Because next time I come along slightly drunk and hangover and I start wondering, did I torque that thing? Yep, sure did. And you can see there that the R is lined up with the gap in the steering knuckle. Wheel speed sensor. That clips in into the clip. That's plumbed in. Sway bar links. This is the right one. The silver one, the black one goes on the left. A washer goes here. Then we have the headlight level sensor with a brand new sway bar link. The old one was just rusted solid. Plug that in. The bushings, as always, only finger tight, and then the final torque is done with the car down on the ground and suspension fully loaded. If we were to torque the bushings right now and then lower the car down to the ground, this bushing here is going to twist and wear out rather quickly. And that's one side done. The brakes we're gonna do a bit later. Now we're gonna copy paste on the other side. Not gonna show you the whole process, but we can just pop this ball joint because that's always fun. The other one came out on its own, so that was nice. Yeah, popping them ball joints. There it is. Now we're gonna go jack power on the rear suspension and brakes. Fun fact, these rims are never going back on this car. Have a different set sitting in the corner over there. The tires are brand new! Oh, the rear ones are original, the shocks. Disconnect the brake line. I don't even know, maybe I'm blocking the camera altogether. I don't know. 4-post lift sucks. Where the f does it plug into? Now! Ugh. Brake shoes. Oh, these were replaced. Bosch. That's why they look so good. So I think we're not gonna touch that. Now we're gonna disconnect the air springs, so we need to pull the fuses for the pump. Air system 49 and 50. Fuses 49 and 50 are these two here. Cool. Now you're gonna slowly crack open the line and let the air come out. Now I need to plug this line so dirt and dust can't enter the line. Now with the pliers we can press on the clip and pull up this connection. So there's a nut on the other side. To access the top mount, we need to remove this cover. The cap. I just removed the shock on the left side, and would you look at that? A massive crack in the body. Never seen that before. Peculiar. And now the bottom bolt that holds the spring in. Ah! Hopefully you can see that, but the rubber has a ton of cracks all over, and this is why we're going to replace it. Preventive maintenance, this is probably over 20 years old. Deutsche Fahrzeug! Rust everywhere. That is one rusty sway bar, and I did soak these a few days ago. Still an absolute nightmare to get off. Tiny sway bar. Now we're going to replace the ball joint, so we need to remove this nut and bolt here. Now, once we pull out this giant bolt here, the trailing arm will want to spring all the way up. That's because these bushings here are torqued at normal ride height and they want to spring back to their natural position. So you're going to loosen this one here, remove the one in the back completely, but first we need to mark the position of this one because this is an eccentric bolt used for wheel alignment. You can do it on this side as well. And then one in the back we're going to remove completely because that way it'll be easier to push down the trailing arm. I forgot to disconnect the sway bar for the headlight leveling. And there's the ball joint, and you can see that's shot. See how it easily wiggles. Now I can remove the integral link. Rust loser. Now I need to remove a circlip here. We need to dig out first. There it is. Brand new components for the rear suspension. We have OE Zax shocks, OE Lemforder control arms, Bilstein air springs, thicker M Sport rear sway bar link. This one is 15 millimeters, and the standard one that's in the car right now is 13. And then of course we have shock mounts, brand new bushing, sway bar links, and ball joints. To press in and out the ball joint, we need this special tool. I got this one on Amazon many years ago. I think it was around 70 euros, made by Asta, and it works quite well. I used it last time on Project Dubai actually. It's really simple. You take the smallest cup and you put it on this end here, then the biggest one on this end, then the threaded bolt goes here, then the nut, and that's how we're going to pull out the ball joint. To press it in, we just swap around the cups. The bigger one goes on this end, the smaller one here, and then that there, and then this here, and that's how you're going to pull it in. Now we can put this rubber block in between the axle carrier and the body of the car. Scotch-Brite, something to help it slide in easier. All right, once you feel it bottom out, you're there. Brand new clip. Make sure that's clipped in. Replace the sway bar link now. This one is an absolute pain to get to because the drive shaft is in the way once you bolt back the trailing arm. Absolutely destroyed. There's a washer here. There you go. So washer here, that goes there, and then a brand new nut here. Brand new integral link. Now, all of these bushings here, this, all of that is torqued with the suspension down on the ground and fully loaded. So we're just gonna do finger tight all around and then move on to replacing the control arms. So, finger tight. Now we're gonna replace the wheel speed sensor, the control arm, and the guide link. That bolt over there is an eccentric millionaire as well, so we need to mark its position. I'm wearing a mask because of the brake dust and all of the crap around here. Rust loser. First, we're gonna disconnect the wheel speed sensor. So on the other side, the wheel speed sensor broke and this bit here stayed in the carrier. So what I did, I used the self-tapping screw, screwed it in all the way and then pulled it out with pliers. Otherwise you would have to disassemble all of this. Remove the ball joint nut. To stop the ball joint from spinning, 10mm deep socket and ratcheting 21. Sugar net. Alright, now I'm gonna go transfer over this plastic on the new one. Shiny new one, and these are specific left to right. And this is the old one. The rubber on the ball joint is shot, and this wouldn't pass tooth inspection. This one is shot as well. Don't lose that washer. Now we can replace this little sway bar for the headlights self-leveling. The one on the bottom is frozen. There's the new one. New wheel speed sensor. New air spring from Bilstein. This one is made in the UK and they're site specific. You can see that this one says RE as in rechts. Now we need to line up this notch here with the notch in the carrier. Then we can start the bolt. Give it a nice twist. Now extend it. And before I forget this stupid cone here. Perfect. Now we can do the shocks. We need this plate from the old shock. I can barely press it. Yeah, that's shot. Completely blown. It should rebound. Kaput! Good. Surprisingly good. You mount. And you nut. Yep. This one is ready. As you would imagine, first we need to do some spring cleaning. Shock going in. Now wrestle this in. That, get the bolt in. Start the Michigan nut. Again, finger tight. Dust cap. Fluid film to prevent further spreading of the rust here. Surface rust, that is. Note to self, do the sway bar first before the shocks. Now I'm gonna get some air going into the springs. I think I finally found a setting in IMPA. Rear axle raise. So let's do that, F1. Yep, it's working. That'll do it for now. There's enough air in there to safely lower the car on the ground, and then we can do the final ride height adjustment with IMPA or ISTA. But before we can do that, we need to sort out the brakes. Now we need to refurbish the brakes. In the rear we are staying stock, but we are going for an upgrade in the front. These are Brembo 4-piston aluminum calipers from E39 530i. Advantages over the stock 530i brakes: they are much lighter, 4-piston action versus single, the disc size remains the same, but we can use better floating E46 M3 rotors, and the added bonus is that they visually look nicer. I bought these as defective for 120 euros, we also need custom brackets to mount them, which were 150 euros, so on paper it's a relatively cheap OEM plus upgrade.
My tool is bending. That one is frozen. Time to blast. These are actually 2-piece calipers, so if you remove these 4 bolts here, we should be able to split them apart, which will make it a lot easier to blast them, to paint them, and to refurbish them. Oh, look at that. We successfully split them apart. Blasting done. Now we're gonna pop the pistons. Compressed air. Brace yourself. That's uno.
It's like a bullet. Jeez Louise. Jesus Christ. No, it won't budge, man.
All right, I'm gonna put this in the press and try to move this one just a little bit because it's not all the way down. So if I can move it just a millimeter to loosen it up. Okay, kids, what I'm about to do is very dangerous, so please don't try this at home. And wear a safety vest at least. That should save you. I'm gonna put my hood on. Oh yeah, that ain't coming out, man. Nope. Okay, this one moved. Oh, it moved. Need a bigger screwdriver. Ah, finally! That was one stubborn bastard. That's one, by the way, and it took me like half an hour to remove it. This one won't even budge. All right, so I pressed in an extension inside of the piston, and I'm gonna try and turn it. Let's see if this works. Yes, it's turning. It's good. Hopefully we can loosen it up like this. Yes! Look at that! Ingenuity! What a battle this was. All right, time to see if this caliper is usable or not. There's the seal. All right, I've cleaned up the edge. And now I need to see if the piston actually slides in or not. I need a good small one. So this is how it should be. Slides smoothly. Here, yeah. This lip here doesn't matter that much. What matters is that the groove where the O-ring sits is good, and below it that it's nice and clean, which it is. Goes in and out without any obstacles. Gotta make sure to clean the groove here where the boot sits. Can test fit this. Not good. So I'm just gonna go around with each caliper and make sure that the piston moves smoothly without the O-ring, because if it doesn't, then later we're gonna have issues. And also make sure that this groove all around is clean and that the dust boot can be installed properly. And then we're gonna start prepping this for paint. With that done and making sure that all of the grooves are clean and piston moves freely, now I'm gonna use rough Scotch-Brite and just scruff up the surface, because with vapor blasting, the surface is really smooth and you wanna scruff it up a little bit so that the paint sticks better. All things considering, that is a nice piston. Really nice and clean inside. This piston is perfect. Totally reusable. Now I can remove bleed screws and pipes all the way, because we need to clean the calipers thoroughly before we close them off for painting. Again, you have a lot of explaining to do if your significant other just walked in and can't see what you're seeing. Tell her it's not porn. Just a dude doing manly work. All right, we're gonna start with the rear calipers and brackets because they're smaller and seem a bit easier to paint. So now I'm gonna use the loads of brake cleaner with a straw, blow out all of the passages, the bore, the entire caliper, and then we're gonna submerge it in this paint thinner, the greaser, whatever it is. Then we can mask up the areas that we don't wanna paint, like the inside of the bore, and then we're ready to paint. Clean Carbonius. I'm gonna put it in here, let it sit for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna take it out and do another round of brake cleaner. Fresh gloves. We need to mask up this area here because this needs to be perfectly flat when you bolt it to the carrier. Here we can reinstall this and the bleed screw. Excellent. This is the paint, silver metallic from Foliatech. I've used in the past on Project Karlsruhe actually paint from them that you brush on, and the finish is fantastic. It was also 2-component and it's like epoxy. It just seems indestructible. So I decided this time around I'm gonna try this spray, which is also 2-component, should be very similar to that, but much quicker to apply. So I'm gonna heat this up with a heat gun because it's sort of coldish outside. Then mix it up. I think I need to pierce the bottle from the bottom. And then I have essentially a few hours to use it, and then you can throw it away because it's 2 components. Nope. Nope. Okay, we have to relocate. The overspray is just enormous from this spray bottle, and finished Alpina is on the other side of this wall, and I don't want to get overspray on it. So there's a tree in the corner of the yard. It's dark, so we're gonna do it there. It's perfect. I know what you're thinking. If this isn't an ideal setup, then I don't know what is. We're gonna do 2 to 3 coats, and we're supposed to wait 5 minutes in between. Gonna leave this to dry overnight inside. Now I'm gonna head home for dinner, and then tomorrow we'll crack open a new bottle.
And if you're wondering why am I doing this in the middle of the night, it's how the dice rolled. It took me a whole day to remove those stupid pistons from the calipers.
Good morning. These look beautiful. According to the instructions, they are dry to touch after 3 to 4 hours. They are dry after 24 hours, and then final hardness is achieved after 7 days. And on Project X5, I used high temperature resistant paint on the caliper brackets. That didn't last. It lasted whole 2 days, and then it turned into the rust. On Project Cologne, I used some caliper specific paint in the spray can. 1 component that lasted about a couple of weeks, and then it turned into the rust. On Project Karlsruhe, I used that Foliatech epoxy thing, 2-component, and they still look absolutely perfect. And this has that epoxy feel to it, which I really like. So hopefully this is going to last as long as those, because the finish is magnificent. Now I can remove masking tape. These are original ATE parts, and we're going to reuse old pistons because they're in perfect condition, not a single scratch or imperfection anywhere. I did buy a rebuild kit from Autofren. This is aftermarket, made in Spain, good quality. I used it on Project Karlsruhe, works just fine. And the kit comes with a brand new piston, but I feel more comfortable using the original part than the aftermarket one. And here you also have everything that you need to rebuild the caliper, but I prefer to use original and OE parts whenever possible and available. I also got this paste from AT specifically for when rebuilding calipers that's safe to use on the inside of the caliper to grease and lube up the O-ring as well as the pistons so everything can go back together nice and easy. First, blow out the O-ring, blow out the housing. Make sure it's seated correctly all around. Then get the grease. Now you can put the boot over the piston. Make sure it's seated correctly. Then pull it up. And now we can lube up the piston. And then pop it in. So make sure that this clips in correctly, because there's like a metal spring inside that keeps it in place. Sleeves, gonna use a little bit of silicone spray on the outside so it's easier to install it. Brake pins, AT repair manual will tell you to use grease here, but BMW repair manual, TIS, will tell you absolutely not to use any grease here. That's because this end here is open, and once you put grease there, it'll trap dirt from the road and wear out this bushing and the pin. At least that's the theory behind it. A lot of debate about this. People do it both ways. I've done it both ways, and both ways are absolutely fine. Just pick whichever one makes more sense to you and what makes you feel more comfortable. I typically go with whatever my mood tells me. Today my mood says no grease. Move it back and forth a couple of times. Just check the repair manual again, and it says installation only clean guide screws, do not grease. Brand new bleed screw. And the cap. This one is done. The caps we're gonna put back later because this still needs to be installed on the car. It's been about 3.5 hours since I painted these. They are dry, but far from cured, so I'm gonna have to be careful how I handle them. Here I was unable to get OE parts, so we're gonna have to use out of Fren. Nothing else is available. But again, comes with everything that we need here. Brand new pistons as well. They're different sizes. There's a smaller bore and a bigger one. And then I got new pipes. This was directly from the dealer. And then the pins and the spring that holds the brake pads in place. Compressed air. That's the O-rings installed. The reason why we had two stuck pistons is because on one of them this rubber boot was completely missing, and then on the other one it was torn, and this upper lip here started to corrode, which is what was stopping the piston from coming out. So I smoothed it out, and now the piston can move up and down freely in those bores. Clean the piston. Pull it all the way down. Make sure it sits correctly. Press it in. You gotta make sure that these are installed and seated correctly, because that's the only thing stopping dirt and water and whatever else from entering the brake caliper and destroying it. All right, I'm just gonna repeat and do this with the rest of them. Now we can bolt them back together, and the way you pair them is the smallest piston matches the smallest on the bottom, so it's not this one, it is that one. Like that. I also repainted the heads of the bolts. Now the final Guten tight. That feels about right. Click. Brand new pipe. Gonna blow it out, compressed air, because you never know. Finally, the bleed screws. Say aloha to brand new parts. It took me like 20 minutes to arrange all of this. We have our beautifully refreshed calipers, then stainless steel brake lines from ProBrake, 160 euros for all 6 of them, and I went with the OEM look. Then we have brake rotors with bullet holes. These are E46 M3 front rotors that are drilled and floating, so big upgrade compared to stock 530i. Then for the brake pads, I went with EBC red stuff. I heard and read good stuff about them. Never tried them myself, so I'm curious to see how they're going to perform. And then we have special brackets which we need to mount these Brembo calipers. I got them from the company called Epitech. And here it says LI as in links, and here RE as in rechts. But for some reason, links is right and rechts is left. Took me like 20 minutes to figure that out. Then we have brake pad sensors, liquid moly brake fluid, and brake paste. It's blue, so I like it. We're going to apply brake paste only on the lip, not on the contact surface itself. That needs to be clean and grease-free. The brake rotors are site specific. It says here on the side where which one goes. It's stamped with R as in, I think we already established that. First, we need to mount the bracket to the caliper. Pop it in. I'm gonna knock the pins in. See if we need to adjust the parking brake shoes. It's spinning freely. Now I'm gonna pull the handbrake 2 clicks and we should feel drag from the shoes. If not, then we need to spread the shoes a bit more. Perfect. And now if I lower the handbrake, it's spinning freely. Don't forget the caps, brake line, brake pad wear sensor, and that's done. These are the 2 brake lines that are often overlooked in the engine bay. These are also rubber brake lines, and because they're right next to the exhaust manifold, the engine, then they develop cracks and then they burst, and then you have brake fluid dripping onto the exhaust manifold, you get flames, you get fire, and your car burns down to the ground. Seen it many times. So if you have an E39, E38 I think as well, be sure to replace these and avoid potential fire. Clean the connections. And these are different sizes as well, so you can't mix them up. Let the finger smacking begin. Oh, that was smooth. Stainless steel one. Fresh brake fluidity. 3 million bars of pressure. For the front calipers, first we bleed the outer bleed screw and then the inner one. Before I put the wheels back on, I want to quickly replace the windshield washer pump that lives behind this part of the fender liner. They go bad quite often and I just want to do it since I'm sort of already here. And then you wonder how jacking points rust on E39. Look at the amount of mud there. Let's first do the sensor. Old level sensor, as you can see, it's corroded. Brand new one, brand new rubber grommet. This is for the headlight washers. Brand new grommet. Brand new OE Continental pump. Brand new grommet again. Another OE Continental pump. There we go, replace the level sensor, pumps, and clean the mud. Finally, the wheels. Oh yes! These are original Style 42 17-inch BBS rims for E39. My favorite rims for non-M Sport E39. In fact, what my original E39 had, and I wanted the exact same thing for this car because they look beautiful. I bought them many moons ago, obviously used, but in very good condition. No curb rash anywhere. And they are original condition, never refurbished, which is exactly how I like them, because when people refurbish these, they normally go for a chrome lip, which I don't like one bit. It's too blingy for me. This is perfect. This is semi-matte and silver in the middle, which is how it was from the factory. If memory serves me right, I think I paid around 800 euros for these, which is a pretty good deal considering the condition and the fact that it has brand new Continental summer tires from 2021. Nice and deep threads, so quite chuffed with these. For the front, I'm gonna need 10 mil spacers to clear the new calipers, and I'm gonna act like I knew that, okay? Right now I put 20 mil in, and that's why it looks so ridiculous, but those are the only ones that I have laying around. And all we need to do now is just roll the car back and forth so we can finish the suspension. So you're gonna do that now, then adjust the rear ride height to M Sport suspension, and then torque the bushings. Brakes work. Now that's more like it. I just love the classy lines of standard E39 facelift. All right, now you're gonna start adjusting the rear ride height with ISTA, ride height adjustment, sports suspension. So a target ride height level of 345 plus minus 3 millimeters. So we are measuring from the wheel center, right about there, to the highest point on the wheel arch. And this one is 364 millimeters. Rear left, 362. Ride height adjustment is necessary. The vehicle is adjusted in the next step. Oh, it's going down. Now I need to measure again. Look at that, 345 millimeters. It knows, the car knows. Same, 344 mil. Very good. Thrust arm bushings, 110 newton meters, but as we can't torque by the nut, which is the proper way to do it, we're gonna raise the torque value by 10% and torque by the bolt, which is 121 newton meters. So line up the marks that we put. Now the massive nut and the bolt that goes through the ball joint, 256 newton meters. My torque wrench only goes up to 200, so we're gonna torque it to 200, and then I'm gonna use a breaker bar and give it a little bit more. Perfect. And now the guide link, 60 newton meters. There's no way you can fit the torque wrench in there. So we're gonna go by hand, and then when we go for alignment, they're gonna mess with that bolt anyway. Finally done. We're gonna end part 3 here. At the beginning of the first episode of this project, the trunk was full with parts, and now not so much. This more or less concludes the mechanical rejuvenation of this vehicle, and the next step is to get it tooth inspected. For that, I gotta deal with few loose ends, like replace the inner taillights that are completely kaput, fix the mirrors, windshield wiper blades, the one in the back as well, and then in the next episode, we're going to put this thing back where it belongs, on the road, and go for a first drive. Then we are left to deal with the interior, spruce up the exterior, and then the supercharger is going to come. I'm still waiting on a response from Infinitas. That's the supercharger that I'm planning to use because he has tooth papers and it's a proven setup for the M54 engine, so I'm really looking forward to that. The next episode is going to be on Project Chicago, Alpina B7. It's sitting right over there, freshly detailed, looking absolutely beautiful. Gotta do a few finishing touches there, and then that episode is going to come. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this wrenchfest episode, and I'll see you very soon. Ciao! And I have to finally replace the shocks here.